Welcome back, NFL fans. We got the week 2 recap. So last week I forgot to put timestamps in the description, and I'll do it in the comments as well. So that's my fault, but I'll do that for you guys this time. Hopefully this video is not as long as last week, so I'll try to sum things up in a shorter time. But hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and let's get into it. So the first game, Thursday Night Football, a game that I'm still trying to forget about. Mentally, I'm on to week 3 here, but I will go over this game real quick. So the Giants were on the road at Washington. Primetime game. I'm sure most of you guys saw this by now, but Daniel Jones on the bright side for the Giants was really good. It was one of the better Daniel Jones performances I've seen, especially in a long time since his rookie year, I feel like. He had some good games last year, but statistically speaking, this was one of his best games in a long time. Now, Darius Slayton, the Giants' year 3 wide receiver, former 5th round pick, he's had some nice splash plays. He actually had a touchdown in this game, had some nice splash plays over his career for the Giants, but drops have always been an issue for him. He had a very, very bad drop in this game. He dropped a wide open touchdown. It was a post route. Nobody was within 20 yards of him. He should have caught it. He dropped the ball. The Giants would have went up 10, but instead they had the punts, and we know the rest here. So the Giants defense, though, I will say, the Giants defense has been a concern. Coming into this year, the Giants, were supposed to have a good defense. That was the best part of their team last year by a good amount. Now, through 2 games, their defense has been kind of the bad part of the team, honestly. They did not play well against Denver, and the defense gave up 30 points to Taylor Heinicke. So, speaking of Heinicke, he had a good start. I thought he played well, but the one blemish was a very bad interception. Now, I blame the play caller as well, because Washington, all they had to do was run out the clock. There was like 2 minutes left or so. All they had to do was get a couple more first downs, maybe one more, and the game would have been over. But for some reason, they passed the ball when they didn't have to. The Giants cornerback, James Bradbury, had a terrific interception. Unfortunately, the Giants went 3 and out, had to kick a field goal. The Giants went up by 2 points, I believe. Then Washington had enough time to go down the field and kick a game-winning field goal. But what happened was Dexter Lawrence, a Giants defensive tackle, was offsides on the first field goal attempt, and the first field goal attempt missed. So the Giants, for about a 4 or 5 second span, I thought the Giants won. I'm sure every other Giants fan thought they won. I'm sure Washington fans thought they lost. It seemed like the Giants won that game because the kick was wide right. Then we saw the flag on the field. The refs made the announcements. They moved Washington up 5 yards, and they made their next attempt and got the victory. So it was just, as a Giants fan, you're like, can it get any worse? I mean, the Giants find every way possible to lose these heartbreaking games, and it gets worse and worse. So congrats to Washington fans out there, but as a Giants fan, that was a rough Thursday night game. On to Sunday, the 1 o'clock games. The Denver Broncos were at Jacksonville. They won that 23-13. I believe Denver was a -6, so they were favored by 6 points. Trevor Lawrence had another pretty underwhelming game here. It wasn't terrible, but just underwhelming. He was 14 of 33. That's not a good completion percentage. Only 118 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. So obviously you'd hope for better. It's only 2 starts in. This was a tough defense. I'm not freaking out yet about Trevor Lawrence. Let's give him some time here. It's also not the best team, of course. So anyway, Teddy Bridgewater, though, continues to impress. I saw a stat that Teddy Bridgewater has the most, I think, passing attempts of over 20 yards, and it's always been the thought that Teddy Bridgewater is a conservative quarterback, and he has been throughout most of his career, but I guess so far, Pat Shermer, they're letting him just rip it and then go downfield and see what's happening here for Teddy Bridgewater. He's been good so far. And Courtland Sutton, coming off the ACL injury, wasn't used very much in week 1 versus the Giants, but he had a big game here. 9 catches, 159 yards for Courtland Sutton in his second game back. Patrick Surtain had his first interception. I believe it was a deep ball down the left sideline. He got good inside leverage on that ball, made a nice play on that one. So Surtain gets his first interception. He had one in the preseason, but first regular season interception that will count. And are the Broncos kind of legit? I mean, they could be. They play the Jets next week. They probably will go 3-0 unless the Jets pull off some type of miracle there. But yeah, I mean, I like this Broncos team. I mean, as long as Teddy Bridgewater plays like this, they will be fine. The Broncos' one problem heading into the season was, well, who's the quarterback? Is it Drew Lock? Is it Teddy? Neither of those guys are that good, at least we thought. But if Teddy Bridgewater plays at this level, the Broncos should be a playoff team and could be dangerous in the playoffs based on that defense. Next, the Buffalo Bills were on the road at the Miami Dolphins. And as I said heading into this game, last year Buffalo owned this matchup against Miami, and nothing really changed here. Now, I will say their quarterback from Miami, Tua Tagovailoa, had an injury. He got hurt pretty early in the first quarter, I believe. He had bruised ribs. The x-rays were negative, they said, so nothing is fractured. And bruised ribs hurts. I had it once. It was rough. I mean, for at least a couple days, it did not feel good. I guess everyone's different, but still, I don't blame him for not coming back in the game. But anyway, so yeah, Buffalo, another beat down there. Jacoby Brissett came in for Tua. He was meh. Wasn't that great, honestly. Miami's offensive line was pretty bad throughout the day. Gregory Rousseau had 2 sacks, the rookie. And look, I was not a big Rousseau guy heading into this draft. I thought he would be more of a second-round prospect. Now, he went late in the draft. I believe he was the 30th overall pick, if I remember. But so far, he's gotten off to a very nice start, including the preseason, so he might be the real deal. Josh Allen, Buffalo's quarterback, didn't look amazing, but Buffalo, they ran the ball very effectively. Devin Singletary had a big run in this game to open up the scoring. Zach Moss had 2 touchdowns, and Singletary had 2 total. So they did enough, and Buffalo's defense, of course, they were very good in this game, getting a shutout at Miami. Xavier Howard did have a pick for Miami, so I guess that's the bright side for them. But outside of that, not much to take away here. I believe Miami plays the Raiders, a hot team, next week, so we'll see what they do. But I think if you're Miami, you just got to kind of forget about this one and head on to week 3. The Houston Texans came in 1-0 against the Cleveland Browns here, who were 0-1. Cleveland took this one 31-21 now. Tyrod Taylor, a guy who cannot catch a break for the life of him, he's out for at least a month, I saw, with a hamstring injury, so I feel bad for Tyrod. He got off to such a great start this year. He torched the Jaguars in week 1. He was playing very well in this game, ran in a touchdown, and he was looking good. But unfortunately, Tyrod Taylor will be out for a little bit here. Now, Davis Mills, who I believe was a 3rd-round pick out of Stanford this draft, so he is a rookie. I did like him as a prospect. He could be like a low-end starter in my opinion, but this is a bit early to throw in a 3rd-round rookie, so this early in the season is not what you want to see. Now, Mills, he threw a bad interception at his own 10-yard line. It wasn't the worst interception. It wasn't as bad as the Justin Fields play. We'll get to that later, but it was a ball that I think was a little behind his receiver. Both guys dove at it, and I think they gave it to the defense, so it was an interception in his own, basically inside of his own 10, so that was not the best area to throw an interception there for Davis Mills, but outside of that, he wasn't too bad. Now, Baker Mayfield had a stinger in this game, they described it as. It looked like a collarbone injury. It looked pretty serious. He was just walking off like all, dangling his left arm. It did not look good after he threw he threw an interception to Justin Reed, I believe, of Houston, tackled him with his left shoulder, and it looked like he was hurt pretty badly, but he came back in the game, looked fine after that. Now, Jarvis Landry, wide receiver for the Browns, he's out for, I don't know how long, maybe a couple weeks here. It's a knee injury. Not serious. It's not season-ending, but this may rush back Odell Beckham next week. We'll find out. And I get why Cleveland benched him. They were like 12-point favorites in this game. There's no point in rushing back Odell. But now with Jarvis Landry potentially out for a couple weeks here, you would think that maybe they bring back Odell Beckham for week 3. Donovan Peoples-Jones, speaking of Odell Beckham, had a chance to really seize this opportunity here and get some more playing time, but DPJ has not been that good, honestly. He had a fumble in this game. He's just not making an impact. He didn't do much week 1 either, so he made some plays for them last year. It's surprising. I thought he would take advantage of this opportunity, but he has not so far. So Donovan Peoples-Jones may be relegated to the bench once Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry are healthy. Demetric Felton, wow. I mean, this play was unbelievable. If you have not watched this spin move, go see it. I believe Felton was a 6th or 7th round pick out of UCLA. He was like a running back, wide receiver, slot wide receiver type, hybrid type guy, kind of like a Cordero Patterson, just not the same looking. I mean, he's a very small guy, shifty as hell, and I believe he dropped in the draft because his combine metrics were not that good, but Demetric Felton looked good. He also had a catch in the flat where he made a guy miss very badly, so he looked good in this game. He caught a screen pass, had an awesome spin move, ran like 34 yards for a touchdown. It was a great play by him. And Houston plays Carolina on this Thursday night. Davis Mills will have his first start. So Carolina's a hot team right now. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, as I said, I think it's a little early for a 3rd-round rookie quarterback to be thrown in there, but I guess they have no other choice right now. Deshaun Watson's already been announced out for Thursday, so he won't be healthy, or he won't be active, I should say. So, yeah, it's Davis Mills Thursday, and we'll see how that goes for the Texans. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. They were on the road at the Chicago Bears, the Bears home opener, I believe, and the Bears won this one 20-17. So Andy Dalton, who was the Bears starter, he got injured in this game, and he remains the starter. Matt Nagy said if he's healthy, so as long as Andy Dalton is off the injury report and is healthy next week, he will remain the starter. We'll see how that goes, but for now, that's what they're saying. Justin Fields, the backup quarterback, he looked average, to put it nicely. He wasn't that great, made some throws. I think Darnell Mooney may have had a drop. It could have been a touchdown for him, so that was unfortunate, but he threw a very bad interception, Justin Fields. It was awful. He threw one right to the linebacker. I believe it was Logan Wilson, the kid from Wyoming, and he almost brought it back for a touchdown. He brought it down to like the 4, but he threw it right at him. It was a very bad interception, had a rookie mistake written all over it, so I hate to see that. And Justin Fields just looked kind of slow going through his reads. He was standing in the pocket too long. He almost fumbled. He did fumble at one point, but like miraculously recovered his own fumble. Looked like it was going to get taken back for 6 once again. So Justin Fields is kind of, turnover prone right now. He's not NFL ready. I see why Matt Nagy wants to keep with Andy Dalton while he can. Now, Joe Burrow, in year 2 now, he was horrendous. He had 3 interceptions. He had a pick 6 to Roquan Smith on the Bears. It was a rough outing for him. He missed a guy really badly on the deep ball down the left sideline. So Joe Burrow, while he looked pretty good in week 1, he did not look good at all in this game. And I do blame the Bengals offensive line partially as well. They were not that good. The Bears had continuous pressure all over Joe Burrow the entire game. On the bright side for them, Jamar Chase had his 2nd career touchdown and had a big play. Split defenders. They ran into each other, ran into touchdowns. So it was kind of garbage time at that point, but they lost by 3, so maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But anyway, I guess for them it was good to see that. But anyway, Chicago wins that one. They get their first victory of the year, and both teams are now 1-1. Next, we have the 49ers. They were on the road again, this time at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Niners took this one 17-11, very low-scoring game, and it was kind of an odd game because it seemed like early on the Eagles were going to put up a lot of points here. The Eagles were up 3-0. Then they had this long touchdown to Jalen Reagor, their year 2 receiver, and on replay, it showed that Reagor stepped out of bounds twice, so they called it back, and the Eagles had a tough time scoring anything after that, honestly. So after the callback touchdown, Philly shot themselves in the foot. I think it was the 2nd quarter. They had a deep ball to Quez Watkins, I believe his name is. I think I wrote it. Yeah, Quez Watkins had like a 91-yard catch or something along those lines. Pushed him out around like the 5-yard line. The Eagles went 4 plays, couldn't get in the end zone, and the last play they tried like a Philly special type play. And it was stupid, honestly. Greg Ward, who was a former quarterback, I believe, he's a Eagles receiver now, tried to throw the pass, and I guess Jalen Hurts was supposed to be the guy. He wasn't open. And for some reason on 4th down, Greg Ward throws the ball out of bounds. Instead of just giving someone a chance, he throws the ball out of bounds, and the Eagles came up empty there after getting a 90-something yard reception once again. So, other than Deebo Samuel, San Francisco's offense was kind of quiet. They didn't do a ton, but Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of like the Lions game last week, was more just a game manager. They didn't turn the ball over. He was fine. They did not play Trey Lance in this game as far as I saw. He was not in the stat sheet, so Trey Lance did not play in this game, but Garoppolo's doing everything he can to just keep that job and not lose them games. That's kind of what he has to do right now, especially against some of these easier matchups here early on. Now, Jalen Hurts was moving the ball, and that's why I was surprised the Eagles were held to such little amount of points. They were moving the ball well offensively. They just could not convert in the red zone. Jalen Hurts also had 82 yards rushing, so that was good to see from him, but definitely not as great as an offensive output as we saw against the Falcons in Week 1. Next, we have the New Orleans Saints. They were on the road against the Carolina Panthers, and this one was a bit of a surprise here. Carolina won 26-7. Jameis, unfortunately, kind of reverted back to his old ways, turnover prone. He had 3 total turnovers, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble lost. And one of his interceptions was typical, Jameis. It was just he made a guy miss on a blitz. He, did a spin move on him. Then he threw a pass as he was getting hit, and it was just, the safety was just there for the ball. It was a bad decision by him. Now, the Saints' offensive line did not look as good as usual. The Saints also had some injuries in this game, I will say. Their center, Eric McCoy, was out. They also had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and, who's the good corner? Marshawn Lattimore was out in this game, I believe. So, not having those 3 guys was definitely a big impact on this game, but I did not expect the Saints to lose by this much. I had the Saints winning, so I was definitely dead wrong on that one, but the Saints defense, they allowed too many chunk plays, whether it was DJ Moore or Christian McCaffrey, even Dan Arnold, the tight end. all had some big chunk plays in this game. Sam Darnold had another pretty solid outing for the most part. He made one bad decision in the first. He was running to his left, tried throwing across his body, and I think Demario Davis almost picked him off. Then he had a bad interception. He just basically got picked off by a defensive tackle, Malcolm Roach. He just tried to just get rid of it in the pocket as he was getting sacked, and Roach kind of just got it, landed in his hands, and it was a bad throw by Sam Darnold. Bad decision, I should say. So, Darnold for the most part did well, but he had a couple of typical bad decisions there that we saw when he was with the Jets. But anyway, I still have no clue what the Saints are. We saw them just annihilate the Packers week 1, then get kind of embarrassed here by the Panthers. So I don't know who the Saints are, what they're going to be. With Jameis Winston, you never know. It's an up and down thing every week, so it's going to fluctuate here if you're a Saints fan. Might be frustrating, but we'll see what they do. But yeah, I still have no idea who they are. And for the Panthers, they're in good shape. They're 2-0. I believe, as I said, they play Houston in week 3 on Thursday Night Football. They have a chance, along with the Broncos, based on their schedules, to be 3-0. So we'll see what happens there. The Los Angeles Rams, they were on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. The Rams took this one by 3, a close game, 27-24. Carson Wentz is already injured. He has 2 ankle injuries, separate ankles, so I don't know if he's playing next week, but Jacob Eason finished this game, the backup quarterback, and Eason threw an interception to Jalen Ramsey on his first pass attempt. That was not good. And as I sit here, I'm wondering, why didn't the Colts have a better backup plan at quarterback? We know about Carson Wentz's injury history, and their backup plan is Jacob Eason. Like, if Carson Wentz were to miss time for a while, that's it. I don't see Jacob Eason leading this team to a playoff berth or anything like that anytime soon. So that's a bit puzzling. But Carson Wentz on the bright side, he looked good at some points. He looked okay, I guess. I mean, he had some vintage Wentz plays where he would kind of duck under these defenders and he would make these nice plays and get out the pocket, make some nice throws. He was showing some of that vintage stuff. Now, he had an awful interception on a shovel pass. It was the type of play, I don't know what this play is called, but we see the Chiefs do it sometimes where Mahomes will kind of roll out to his right and then kind of just shovel pass to the tight end, Kelsey, usually. We saw that type of play here, and Carson Wentz rolled to the right, shovel pass to Jack Doyle, and threw an interception. I don't know how you throw an interception on that, but he did, and there was a very rough interception because it was right on the goal line, so that was a very big missed opportunity there. The Rams had a bunch of nice goal line stands, including that. They kept Jonathan Taylor out the end zone multiple times. They did a good job on the goal line there for the Rams defense. Now, Cooper Kupp, Michael Pittman, they are on separate teams, but they had big games in this one, wide receivers. Cooper Kupp had a big week 1, another big week 2 game. Michael Pittman in his second year was quiet week 1, had a bounce back here for the Colts at wide receiver. Now, the Colts offensive line let up some pressure for sure, but I don't really know if I could blame them because Carson Wentz loves to hold on to the ball for a long time. That's definitely something I noticed there. And it's not like last year where Phillip Rivers is just getting the ball and just getting rid of it quickly, doing his sidearm thing. Carson Wentz loves to just kind of hang back there and fight off defenders and wait for a big play. So it kind of makes your offensive line look bad sometimes. They got to Wentz a good amount there in that game. Now, the Colts had a touchdown gifted to them. It was one of the worst plays I've seen on special teams, if you guys saw this. I mean, if you haven't saw this, it's funny, honestly. I'm a person that sits down and watches the red zone every single season. I've never seen this happen before. I've seen some rough special teams plays before. But anyway, the guy who on special teams stands in front of the punter. I forget what he's called. It might be like punt protector or something simple like that. But anyway, there's a guy who stands like 5 yards in front of the punter. He's like the last line of defense, and for some reason he stood in front of the ball. The ball was snapped and it hit the guy's arm and it bounced into the end zone. Johnny Hecker, the Rams punter, tried to pick it up and he couldn't, and the Colts got a touchdown. So for some reason, this guy who was the punt protector or something stood in the wrong place. The ball was snapped off his arm. It was one of the worst things I've seen. So it was like funny watching it because I don't care. I didn't really have a rooting interest in this game, but if I was a Rams fan, it would have drove me crazy. Anyway, so yeah, the Rams held on though. Cooper Kupp had a touchdown late. They held on. The Rams, they go 2-0, and the Colts, they fall to 0-2. Next, we have the Raiders on the road against the Steelers. The Raiders took this one 26-17. I think Pittsburgh was like 5 or 6 point favorites in this one. They lost the game outright. The Raiders, they couldn't really run the ball at all. They tried it with Peyton Barber. They tried it with Kenyon Drake. It wasn't going too well, but Derek Carr put the team on his back. He had 382 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. He was awesome. Even Henry Ruggs had a big fourth quarter touchdown, a long touchdown. They kind of caught Minkah Fitzpatrick lacking back there. So, Henry Ruggs is making a contribution. I think Brian Edwards as well. So 2 guys in their second year making contributions there at wide receiver. The Raiders defense, they had some guys step up. Some of the cornerbacks, Trayvon Mullen had an interception on Ben Roethlisberger. Casey Hayward made a nice play. I forget against who. It might have been Claypool, but that's a veteran right there from the Chargers making a play. Even Melvin Ingram, a former Charger veteran defender, made I think he had his first sack for the Steelers defense, so that was good to see. But Ben Roethlisberger still looked kind of shaky. It wasn't good. The Steelers can't block for Najee Harris. He had 10 carries for 38 yards, and now Deontay Johnson's hurt. I don't know the extent of the injury right now, but it was the final play of the game. It was worthless because the Steelers were down by, what were they down by? They were down by 9 points, so it was a 2-possession game. As time expired, they threw the ball to Deontay Johnson. He went down on the final play of the game, and it was worthless, so I'm sure they regret that looking back on it, but we'll see how badly Deontay Johnson's injured. And if he's out, I mean, that's Ben Roethlisberger's favorite guy to go to, it seems like, so that would definitely be a big loss for this offense. And the Raiders kicker, I don't shout out the kickers too often, but Daniel Carlson, I always say Dylan Carlson plays for the St. Louis Cardinals. Daniel Carlson, the former Auburn kicker, he had a great game in this one. He might have been like 4 for 4 on field goals. He was great. And as I always say, I'm not the biggest Derek Carr guy, but I'm close to buying in. Derek Carr looks different this year. I don't know. They always the Raiders always fool us with these good early starts. I kind of want to see him do it for a little while longer here, but Derek Carr is off to a fantastic start. And sooner or later, I may have to buy into Derek Carr being a good quarterback. I mean, he's good. He puts up good numbers, but I just don't really consider Derek Carr like a winner. I just kind of put him in like that Kirk Cousins type tier, but I don't know. If he keeps playing like this, I may have to really move him up in my rankings. Next, we have the New England Patriots. They were on the road against the Jets, and the Jets didn't put up the best fight in this one. The Patriots won 25-6. And Bill Belichick does what he usually does against rookie quarterbacks. He made them look stupid. And Zach Wilson had 4 interceptions, and some of them were just bad decisions. Like Zach Wilson, I could see if you were kind of like fooled into like a good defensive scheme or something. But a lot of these like Zach Wilson interceptions were just, let me throw it up deep and see what happens type things. It was like playing jackpot with your friends and just throwing the ball up and see who would catch it. It was bad. So Wilson had 4 interceptions, but he did get better in the second half. I guess that's the one good thing about that performance. But Mac Jones on the other side, he was fine. I don't think he even exceeded 200 passing yards, but he was fine, honestly. Didn't turn the ball over, kind of like Jimmy Garoppolo. Ironic enough, former Patriot. But Damian Harris had an insane touchdown run. It was 26 yards. He must have taken on 6 or 7 tacklers and just dragged them all to the end zone. So if you did not see that Damian Harris touchdown run, recommend that for sure. That was awesome. The Jets kicking, they still have a problem with their kicker position. They have a guy named Matt Amendola. I saw him miss it was like a easy 20-something yard attempt, and he just shanked it to the left. So I have not heard of this Matt Amendola guy, but it seems like the Jets have a kicking problem once again. The Patriots, they get their first win of the year. Mac Jones looks good once again. No turnovers, which is a bright side. But Zach Wilson definitely has to have a bounce back here in week number 3. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings. They were on the road against Arizona. This was a close, fun game here. Arizona won by 1 point, came down to a game-winning field goal. We'll get to that later. The Vikings, I guess I'll get to it right now, actually. That's how I have it listed. But the Vikings kicking woes continue. So Greg Joseph, who I guess might be a rookie. I've not seen him before this year. As I said, Dan Bailey used to be their kicker, but he's gone now. So Greg Joseph missed a game-winning field goal attempt for the Vikings. It wasn't even that long of a kick. I forget off the top of my head what it was. Might have been like high 30s, early 40s type kick. It wasn't really that, far, but he missed it to the right. Dalvin Cook went down like 3 times in this game. I'm sure the fantasy owners were just going crazy, but he came back every time. He was fine, but he was down a few times. I think he actually accused J.J. Watts of trying to injure him, so that was kind of weird. There was like a little interaction going on, and I think Watt kind of twisted his ankle in a way, and I think Dalvin Cook thought it was on purpose. I don't know. It seemed like they, got it all settled there, but Kyler Murray had a couple of interceptions, but continued to look amazing and made some great plays. Had this amazing play to Rondale Moore, the rookie, for a touchdown where he rolled out to his left and bought a bunch of extra time, and Rondale Moore was wide open. So Kyler Murray doing Kyler Murray things. Nick Vigil had a pick 6 in this game, and there was a really interesting play in this one. So there was a play where I think it was actually Rondale Moore. He fumbled the ball, and it somehow got tipped into Nick Vigil's like arm, and unfortunately for him, he only got 1 foot in. It should have been a fumble, but he only got 1 foot in, but he made up for it later, had a pick 6 there for the Vikings. Kirk Cousins had a nice game himself. He was only sacked once too, and that's kind of been a concern as the Vikings offensive line. I don't think Darisaw is back yet, their left tackle, so so it was nice to see the offensive line play well for Minnesota, open up some running lanes as well. Matt Prater, who I think already holds the NFL record for the furthest kick of 64 yards, I think it is, had a 62-yard field goal before half in this one, so that was really cool to see. And by the way, it's not related to the game. Well, technically it is, but Gus Johnson and Aqib Talib, the announcers in this game, were awesome. I hope to see them more throughout this year. Gus Johnson's just always so exciting. He does college football mostly, but he does some NFL as well, but he was great. And Aqib Talib is like not the typical guy you'll hear in the booth. It's just like, I don't know, it's just different, and I like that combination, so I hope Gus Johnson and Aqib Talib continue to do games throughout the year. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons. They were on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers won this one 48-25, but during the game in the third quarter, it was actually closer than this score implies. I believe the score was 28-25, so it was a 3-point game, I believe, at one point. Then it got ugly. I think Tampa Bay was just like, all right, enough of this. Let's just, turn it on here and let's just end these guys, and that's kind of what they did. Mike Edwards, the safety for the Bucs, had 2 pick sixes in a span of like 4 minutes and 10 seconds, so that was pretty cool. I think both of them got tipped, so that was kind of bad luck there for Matt Ryan. Tom Brady had 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, no turnovers, so that was cool to see. Rob Gronkowski and Mike Evans combined for 4 touchdowns, 2 each from those guys, and Gronkowski's having like this bounce back, in his early 30s type thing. Like, he's looking really good. He looked good towards the end of last year too, but like he looks just amazing so far this year. Matt Ryan's offensive line, they were holding up throughout the game, but they were getting the ball out quickly, and they kind of broke down towards the end, honestly. Then the balls got tipped, and it was over. But yeah, they held up okay throughout most of the game. Rookie Kyle Pitts, the tight end, had a team-high 73 yards, just beating out Calvin Ridley, who had a touchdown in this game. And Atlanta, they hung around as long as they could, to their credit, but they just, they couldn't knock off Tampa. There's just a big talent discrepancy there, new head coach. So for Atlanta, they showed some life for the first, 3 quarters or so, which is good. Atlanta has a somewhat winnable game next week against my Giants, and the Giants have to win that one, in my opinion, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so far a rough start for Atlanta, and Tampa now is 2-0. Next, we had the Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Cowboys won by 3, 20-17, and I expected a higher scoring game, honestly. I think a lot of people did, Vegas included. So Justin Herbert had 83 passing yards called back due to penalty. That's the most this season, according to Mike Renner of PFF. And I believe it, because he had so many. I don't want to sit here and say a game was rigged and whatnot, but like every time the Chargers scored in the fourth quarter, it was like, oh, flag on this, flag on that, illegal shift this, illegal shift that. It was just every way possible. It seemed like they were taking points off the board for the Chargers, and I guess they were legitimate penalties, but it was kind of odd how often it was happening. I think Donald Parham had a long touchdown. I think Jared Cook had a touchdown. They were both called back, so that was kind of odd to see there, but Dallas's offense looked pretty good. Tony Pollard continues to look unbelievable. CeeDee Lamb had a good game. Dak Prescott looked okay. Not as good as he did in week 1, but he looked fine. But, the whole Tony Pollard versus Ezekiel Elliott thing is a real debate. I mean, Zeke is on a $90 million contract. Do you bench a guy making that much money? Because just based on the eye test, it looks like Tony Pollard's the much better back. He's more explosive. Maybe Zeke's he's probably a better pass blocker, maybe a better catcher of the ball, but I just think every time Tony Pollard touches the ball, good things happen. So I don't see them benching Zeke because of the contract or being the running back too. Zeke is still playing like 70% of the snaps or so, but I don't know. You can't really keep Pollard off the field if he's playing like this. Asante Samuel Jr. had his first interception. That was good to see. And Greg Zuerlein of the Cowboys, the kicker, made a 56-yard game-winning field goal. Next, we have the Titans and the Seattle Seahawks. It was actually a very good game. Went to overtime. And as I said, I expected Derrick Henry and Julio Jones and Tannehill to have a bounce back here, and they did, especially Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry put up an insane stat line that some guys put up in a span of 3 games, but he did it in 1 because he's Derrick Henry. 35 carries, 182 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, and a career-high 6 receptions. So an insane performance for Derrick Henry, who just was beating them down in the second half. Like, he was okay in the first half, wasn't too great, wasn't too efficient, but in the second half, Derrick Henry took over this game. Julio Jones had his first 100-plus yard game as a Titan. A.J. Brown had a couple drops in there as well. That wasn't so good. And the Julio Jones touchdown, that was a very puzzling play because, the Julio Jones touchdown, if you didn't watch it, he caught a touchdown in the back of the end zone. Looked like he got both feet in. The ref on the field called it a touchdown. Of course, they review all the scoring plays. They went to replay, and the replay didn't show anything too definitive. It looked like Julio was in. Now, mind you, it was very close. It was like, just by a few blades of grass, if that. But it looked like Julio was in. But for some reason, they overturned it and they took away the touchdown. So that was kind of a weird call. The Titans won anyway, so it didn't really hurt anybody. It only hurts the fantasy owners of Julio Jones, myself included on that one. But I don't know why they took the touchdown off. That was weird. Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, they connected for a couple big plays in this one. Lockett had another huge game in this one. There was a ridiculous taunting call. I can't stand these stupid taunting rules. You can't even celebrate in this league anymore. It's just stupid. I think it was DJ Reed, a corner against A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown, I guess, couldn't come up with a pass. And this DJ Reed, the corner for Seattle, kind of just was in his face and then waved at him or something, or gave him the Mutombo wave or something. I don't know. But they threw a flag. And it's just the dumbest thing ever. You can't celebrate on the field anymore. You can't, how do you expect these guys to be competitive and they can't talk smack to each other? It makes no sense, honestly. So I think it's stupid. They have to take away this rule. Bobby Wagner, probably a future Hall of Fame linebacker for Seattle. He was unbelievable. 20 tackles in this game. Yes, Derrick Henry had a ton of rushing attempts, and that probably helped the tackle total, but he was insane. Just an awesome player. Once again, probably a future Hall of Famer. And Tennessee, they were down 16-30 at one point, so they got this comeback, a big win for them. They're now 1-1. They were facing 0-2 in the face, and now Seattle, I think, is the only team that's 0-2, or not the only team that's not 2-0 in that tough NFC West. So a big win for Tennessee, and Seattle got to bounce back in Week 3. For Sunday Night Football this week, this game was awesome. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens won by 36-35. Lamar Jackson started terribly in the first quarter. 2 quick interceptions, both to Tyrann Mathieu, I believe. Then the Ravens started running the ball at an efficient clip or at an efficient rate, and Lamar started getting better as a passer. And from quarter 2 on, Lamar was on a mission. He was awesome in this game, and the Ravens, they just got much better offensively. Now the Chiefs offensively, they did their thing. They, Tyreek Hill was kind of quiet. I feel like they showed on the broadcast that the Baltimore Ravens were kind of going all out to just stop Tyreek Hill from having big plays, and that worked. Tyreek Hill didn't really kill them over the top, but that left guys open Travis Kelce, the other tight end who looks like Kelce, and who else? Demarcus Robinson had a pretty nice game for them. So they took out Hill, but they can beat you in other ways. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back for Kansas City, had a big fumble. They were down 36-35 with 1:26 on the clock. They were on Baltimore's 30. They were in field goal range. Just had to run out the clock and kick a field goal and get out of there with a win. But I think that was the first lost fumble of his career, I'm pretty sure I heard. So that was definitely not a good time for it. Jason Owe, Adafe Owe, whatever you want to call him, he had the strip sack and he recovered the fumble as well. So a big play there by the rookie, first-round pick. Then the Ravens got the ball back after the fumble, and John Harbaugh, more like John Big Balls, making a big a decision here on 4th and 1. I think he went up to Lamar and said, "Hey, do you want to go for it?" Obviously, Lamar Jackson said yes. So it was 4th and 1. There was 1 minute left on their own 43. So if they don't get this, obviously, Kansas City has to get five yards and kick a game-winning field goal. So if they don't get this 4th down, they probably lose. They played the percentages. They played the analytics in their favor. They said, let's go for it. I think Lamar ran the keeper, and they got the 1st down. Ravens won. It was a very, just ballsy call, though, by John Harbaugh. But I don't blame him. I think when you face a team like Kansas City with their offensive firepower, you're 1 yard away from putting them, just winning the game. I think you got to go for that. So I really don't blame him. I don't want to Monday morning quarterback this whole thing, but I kind of thought at the time, yeah, I think you got to go for it. It goes against all logic. They're yeah, you should punt here. But when you're facing those guys on the sideline, Patrick Mahomes and Kelce and Hill, you're yeah, I guess going for it's the right thing. And you have, Lamar Jackson, maybe the best rushing quarterback of all time. So that helps as well. And the run blocking unit, the offensive line did a great job all night for Baltimore. So they got that last 1st down. awesome game once again. Another great, well, last week it was Monday night that had the great game, but another great primetime game, and Baltimore gets a much needed win to go 1-1. Last game here, Monday Night Football. So the game is not concluded yet. There's like 2 minutes left, but I figured I'll start talking about it now. I'll put the score in the graphic, but Packers are up 35-17, I believe. Aaron Jones, I think, has 4 touchdowns. I faced him in the fantasy. He came back and beat me, so that's, it's a bad beat for me personally. I'm sure a lot of other people either definitely benefited from having Aaron Jones tonight, or people like me that just have a tough loss because of Aaron Jones. So, yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers bounced back. I think he had 5 touchdowns, no turnovers in this game. On Detroit's side, they started off pretty well offensively. They had, 14 points pretty quickly, but once the fourth quarter came around, we saw Jared Goff fumble. He fumbled a snap. Then Jared Goff threw an interception. So, the Lions kind of hung around for a while, but their secondary is so beat up. Even Fatu Melifonwu, their rookie corner. Of course, they lost Jeffrey Okudah to the Achilles, I believe it was. Now Fatu Melifonwu was out. He was taken out of the game. So, they are down to just guys off the street, it feels like, in their secondary for Detroit. And, of course, playing Aaron Rodgers, that's not really a good combination. They did a pretty good job, the Lions, up front defensively. I mean, Aaron Jones didn't kill them rushing. It was more receiving. So I feel like the front, front 7 did a good job for the Lions. But their secondary is so depleted, and playing a veteran like Aaron Rodgers at home, it was a tough spot. So it looks like the Packers will win that one by a lot of points. Not really a surprise. I think I took them at -11, so they won this one by a good amount. But for Detroit, I mean, look, it was a game they were in for a little bit, but Jared Goff kind of got a little turnover happy at the end there, and it looks like they will fall to 0-2. The Packers get their first win, going 1-1. So that'll do it for this video. Leave in the comments your takeaways, some hot takes from week 2. What do you expect going forward? Once again, I'll leave in the description the timestamps of which games I'm talking about, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.